12 cheap items that veterans always have ready before anything happens. Not because they overthink, but because they have seen what happens when you do not have them. What is worth mentioning is, most people can buy these things today, but they do not. They delay until everything is out of control. In this list, there are things that are very familiar and also things you have never thought of. But what they all have in common is very simple, small, cheap, and extremely effective when you need them. And when you get to item number 7, you will understand why missing just one small thing can make everything much harder than you think. 12. Grass tying string. There are things you will walk past and never notice until you need it, and there is nothing to replace it. One of them is grass tying string, a type of string tucked away in the corners of agricultural stores. Almost no one pays attention to it. It looks very ordinary, but with just a few dollars, you can buy hundreds, even thousands of meters. This is how they think. Not buying something cool, but buying something that actually works. In reality, this type of string is extremely versatile. You can use it to set up a temporary tarp shelter, secure belongings, hang items up high to avoid moisture, or keep everything from shifting while moving. It sounds simple, but in a resource-limited environment, anything not secured becomes a problem. Imagine a rainy night. You set up a tarp for shelter. If the string is not secure, just one strong gust of wind, the tarp comes loose. You not only lose your shelter, but also have to set it up again from scratch at your most exhausted, most soaked, and most unfocused moment. Small things like that are exactly what make everything much harder. The strength of grass tying string is that it is light, compact, and extremely economical. Compared to paracord or other expensive specialized ropes, the cost per meter is almost negligible. That is why many experienced people always carry a roll or cut it into multiple short and long pieces in advance to use when needed. A small tip is to wrap a few pieces of string around a water bottle or backpack. When needed, you do not have to search, you do not have to cut, just use it. However, a common mistake is misjudging its limits. This type of string is not designed to handle heavy loads. If used incorrectly, it can snap. And if tied improperly, everything you set up can collapse after just one gust of wind. Therefore, understanding its limits and knowing a few basic knots is very important. If you do not have this type of string, you can still manage in other ways. But it will take more time, require more effort, and make it easier to make mistakes. For those with experience, they understand one thing very clearly. In difficult situations, what helps you is not complex items, but simple things that help you control your surroundings. And grass tying string is one of those things. You will never think about it until you need it, and there is nothing to replace it. How many things do you think you could use this type of string for in a single day? 11. Antibiotic ointment. One interesting thing, people who have lived and worked in harsh environments, like veterans or those in remote areas, do not choose first aid supplies based on appearance or advertising. They choose what is simple, what works well. When it comes to antibiotic ointment, they often look for a very basic type, containing 3 familiar active ingredients: bacitracin, neomycin, polymyxin, Adam B. These are also the same components found in commonly available products at CVS Pharmacy. But the difference lies in how they buy. Instead of choosing nicely packaged and expensive products, they look for other sources like Tractor Supply Company, where products with similar ingredients are available at significantly lower cost. Of course, when used for humans, choosing products clearly labeled for human use is still safer. But their way of thinking is very clear. Do not buy what is advertised. Buy what actually works. In terms of use, this type of ointment is for minor scrapes, small cuts, or mild burns. After cleaning the wound, just apply a thin layer to create a protective barrier that helps limit bacterial entry. It may sound small, but in resource-limited conditions, when clean water is not available, when you cannot get to a hospital, its role is completely different. Bacteria grow very quickly in moist and dirty environments, so the initial cleaning step is always the most important. A common mistake is applying the ointment while the wound is still dirty. That is like locking the door while leaving the problem inside. Imagine a simple situation. A small scratch on your hand gets dusty and you keep working. By evening, it starts to swell, hurt more, and gripping things becomes uncomfortable. Infection does not always happen, but if it does in a resource-limited setting, you will not have many options to handle it. In cases where the ointment is not available, some temporary solutions like raw honey or aloe vera gel can help protect the wound. However, these are only short-term options and cannot fully replace antibiotic ointment. People with experience understand very clearly that in situations like prolonged power outages or disrupted healthcare systems, infections from small wounds are the most common risk, and also the most preventable. If the wound shows more serious signs, such as significant swelling, pus, or fever, seeking medical help as soon as possible is still the safest choice. This is not an expensive item, but for those with experience, it is always in their first aid kit. Because they understand one very simple thing: you will never think it is important until you do not have it. 10. Cast iron skillet. Most modern cookware has one thing in common. It works well for a few years, then gradually wears down. The non-stick coating peels off, the handle becomes loose, or it simply no longer retains heat like it used to. But cast iron skillets are different. This is one of the very few tools you can use for decades, even a lifetime, if you know how to take care of it. What makes a cast iron skillet special is not technology, but simplicity and durability. You can use it for daily cooking, boil water when needed, retain heat longer than most other pans, and even place it directly over a flame without worrying about damage. In normal conditions, this might just be a convenience. But in limited situations, when you do not have many options, a durable, stable, and versatile tool like this becomes extremely important. The price of a cast iron skillet is also not expensive. Around $20 to $30 is enough to own one that is good enough for long-term use. For experienced people, they do not see it as just a kitchen item, but as a reliable tool, something they know will work when needed. However, the most common mistake is very simple: not drying it after use. Cast iron is a material that easily retains moisture, and just leaving water on it will cause the surface to start rusting. Many people think cast iron is hard to use, but in reality, it only takes a small habit. After washing, dry it completely, or place it on the stove over low heat for a few minutes to evaporate the water. Some people also apply a thin layer of oil to protect the surface and maintain durability longer. It sounds simple, but small habits like that are exactly what determine whether you use that skillet for a few months or for decades. Not everyone realizes this until they have to replace pans many times for reasons that could have been completely avoided. If you do not have a tool that is durable and flexible enough, cooking becomes much more difficult, especially in unstable conditions. You will spend more time, use more effort, and sometimes not even be able to maintain the simplest meals. For those with experience, they understand one thing very clearly. It is not the most modern thing that is the best, but the thing that still works when everything else is gone. And the cast iron skillet is one of those things. Are you using something that will still work well in 5 years? 9. Oil lamp. You are inside your home. The lights go out, and within seconds, everything falls into darkness. Veterans do not wait until the power goes out to think about light. They prepare in advance because they understand one thing very clearly. When electricity disappears, darkness comes very fast. There is no warning, no time to think. In just a few minutes, familiar surroundings become hard to see, hard to move around, and the risk of accidents increases noticeably. The first instinct of most people is to look for a flashlight. But the problem is that batteries always have limits. No matter how good they are, they will eventually run out. And when the batteries are drained, you are back to the starting point. Complete darkness. The light does not disappear instantly. It fades. And that is exactly when things start to become difficult. That is why experienced people do not rely on a single source. They always have a simpler, more stable option: the oil lamp. An oil lamp does not need charging, does not depend on electricity or any system. As long as you have fuel and a wick, you can produce continuous light for many hours, even many nights. 1 gallon of fuel can provide dozens of hours of lighting, something batteries struggle to maintain during extended outages. This simplicity is its strength. No batteries, no wires, no dependency. A completely dark evening during a power outage. Without light, it is hard to find things, easy to trip, and even checking doors or cooking becomes more complicated. Darkness is not just inconvenient, it also increases risk. In many cases, the problem is not that you do not have the tools, but that you cannot see to use them. The price of an oil lamp is only around $10 to $15, and lamp fuel is not expensive. To many people, it looks outdated. But to those with experience, it is one of the most reliable light sources when everything else stops working. However, the most common mistake is careless use. This is a real flame, so if placed near curtains, paper, or flammable materials, the fire risk is very high. In addition, placing the lamp in an unstable position can cause it to tip over. Therefore, always place it on a stable surface, in a well-ventilated area, and away from anything that can catch fire. Without light, you not only lose the ability to see, but also lose your sense of control. And in difficult situations, losing control is what makes everything more dangerous. For those with experience, they do not see light as a convenience. They see it as a basic safety factor. And the oil lamp is one of the simplest ways to ensure that. You will not think about it when everything is fine. But when a power outage happens, you will realize it is too late to prepare. 8. Water storage container. You turn on the tap and nothing comes out. You can go without food for a few days. But without water, your body will weaken very quickly. That is why they do not wait until there is a shortage to prepare, but always store it in advance. And the simplest way is a water container. At first glance, it is just a very ordinary container, priced around $20 to $80. But its real value lies in helping you maintain control. When everything around you starts to be disrupted, the one who has water is the one who has options. Imagine a very simple situation. You turn on the tap, and nothing comes out. No warning, no prior notice. At that moment, you realize that something you use every day is actually that fragile. And if you do not already have water stored, you will have to go out and look for it while everyone around you is also searching. A full container of water is not just for drinking. You also need it for cooking, cleaning, and maintaining basic daily activities. When the water supply is disrupted, everything in life is affected. That is why experienced people always prioritize water above all else. However, having a container alone is not enough. The most common mistake is not cleaning it before storing water or allowing the water to become contaminated over time. Clean water at the start does not mean it will always stay clean. Therefore, the container needs to be thoroughly cleaned, sealed tightly, and placed in a cool area away from direct sunlight. A simple tip is to divide the water into multiple containers instead of storing it all in one place, making it easier to manage and use. If you do not have water, you do not have many options. And at that point, every decision you make is limited. Veterans understand this very clearly. They do not prepare out of fear. They prepare because they have seen what happens when you do not. You will not think about water when it is always available. But when it disappears, you will not have time to prepare anymore. If water stopped flowing right now, how long would you last? 7. Electrolyte powder. Many people think that as long as they drink enough water, they are fine. But in reality, that is the fastest way to still feel exhausted, even while drinking a lot. But if you lack sodium, potassium, and essential minerals, your body will still weaken. You are not just thirsty. You lose strength, feel dizzy, and can no longer stay alert. In harsh conditions, just drinking water is not enough. Imagine a hot day. You are constantly moving, sweating a lot. You drink water, but the fatigue does not go away. Your hands start to weaken, your mind slows down. You are still drinking, but your body is no longer absorbing effectively. That is not just dehydration, that is electrolyte imbalance. And this is what many people do not realize. Water helps you survive, but electrolytes help you function. Electrolyte powder solves exactly that problem. Just mix it with water, and you not only replace lost fluids, but also help your body recover faster and maintain more stable energy. It is very cheap, just a few dollars for multiple uses. But its real value lies in keeping you from breaking down when your body starts to decline. Elements like sodium and potassium play an important role in muscle function and the nervous system. When they are lacking, the body no longer coordinates as it normally does. That is why in many real situations, people can endure hunger, but collapse very quickly when they lose electrolytes. The most common mistake is only drinking water when already feeling exhausted, without replenishing electrolytes early. By the time clear symptoms appear, you have already passed the easiest point of recovery. Another mistake is underestimating it, thinking it is only for athletes. People with experience do not wait until then. They replenish early, keeping the body stable from the start. Without electrolytes, you can still drink water, but the effectiveness is greatly reduced. And in situations that require endurance, even a small drop in strength makes everything much harder. Veterans understand this very clearly. They do not prepare to be better. They prepare so they do not collapse. You will not think about electrolytes when you are still healthy, but when your body starts to weaken, you will realize it is too late to prepare. 6. Lighter and matches, you need fire. Right now. But you cannot create it. For them, fire is not a convenience. It is the foundation of survival. Without fire, you not only lose the ability to cook, but also lose the ability to stay warm, dry things, and even signal for help when needed. In normal conditions, a lighter is just a small, cheap, easily replaceable item. But when things go bad, its value changes completely. You do not realize that until you cannot create fire. Imagine a cold evening. No electricity, no heat source. Your clothes gradually become colder as they stay damp. You try to keep warm, but your body continues to lose heat. Without fire, you cannot dry your clothes, cannot cook, and cannot even boil water. And at that moment, you realize many of the things you need all start with fire. In survival, fire does not just help you live, it helps you maintain the ability to keep going. That is why experienced people never rely on just one way to make fire. They always have multiple options: a lighter, a few boxes of matches, possibly waterproof matches. Not because they overthink, but because they understand clearly. When one thing does not work, you do not have time to try again. You need a second option, immediately. Basically, making fire is not difficult, but keeping it going in windy, wet, or cold conditions is what matters. That is why a simple habit is to always keep your lighter in a dry place, and if possible, keep a backup set in a different location. When one is lost or fails, you still have a choice. The most common mistake is carrying only a single lighter. When it runs out of fuel or gets wet, you almost have no option left. Another mistake is keeping everything in one place. When it is lost, you lose your entire ability to make fire. The cost of these items is very low, just a few dollars, but their real value is not in the money. It is in giving you the ability to create the most basic thing when everything else is gone. Veterans understand this very clearly. They do not prepare for complex things. They prepare for things that cannot be replaced. And in survival, fire is always one of those things. You will not think about it when everything is still working. But when you cannot make fire, everything will become much more difficult. If you need fire right now, do you have more than one way to create it? 5. Bleach, the most dangerous thing, is not dirty water. It is thinking it is clean. Veterans do not just ask, "Is there water?" They ask a different question, a more important one. Is this water safe? It sounds simple, but that is the difference between being fine or starting to have problems. Because the truth is, dirty water does not take you down immediately. It gives you time. Time for you to drink. Time for you to be careless. And then, time for your body to start reacting. You still think you are fine until you are not anymore. And this is when everything flips. The thing that helps you handle this problem is not expensive equipment. It is a bottle of bleach. That is right. The same thing you use to clean floors can help you control a much bigger risk. With the right type and the right amount, you can significantly reduce bacteria in water. You do not need much. Just a very small amount of chlorine is enough to change the safety level of the water. This is also a substance commonly used in large-scale water treatment because of its ability to kill bacteria. But this is where many people go wrong. They think, more is better. No, completely wrong. Using too much. You are creating another problem. Using the wrong type, scented with additives, you are turning the water into something that should not be consumed. Veterans do not do that. They choose the simplest type, unscented, no additives, and they use just enough. Imagine a very real situation. You have water, but you are not sure it is clean. You stand there, looking at it, and asking yourself, should I drink it? That is when things become dangerous. Not because you do not have water, but because you do not know whether it is safe. A bottle of bleach that costs a few dollars can help you control that exact moment. Not comfort, not convenience, but risk control. And in survival, risk control is everything. You will never think about bleach when everything is still clean. But when you start to question your water source, you will realize the smallest thing is what determines whether you are safe or not. 4. Plastic bucket. You do not realize the value of a bucket until you have to do everything without it. Not because it is special, but because too many tasks depend on it. In normal conditions, a bucket is just a secondary item, but when things are limited, it starts to appear in almost everything you do. You need to carry water. You need something large and sturdy. You need to store dry food. You need a sealed space. You need to clean, wash items, or handle things that are not easy to talk about. You still need a container. The issue is not whether you have water or not, but whether you have a way to manage it. Think about it simply. If every time you need water, you have to use a small bottle, make multiple trips, carry a little at a time, you will get tired faster, spend more time, and always feel like you do not have enough. Not because you do not have enough, but because you cannot keep what you have. In situations like that, the real danger is not a lack of resources, but the loss of control. A good plastic bucket costs only around $5 to $10, but with a tight lid, it becomes something completely different. You not only store, but also protect. Water stays free from dust, food stays dry, and you do not have to worry about things you cannot see. Many people overlook this detail. They have a bucket, but no lid. They can store, but cannot control. And in an unstable environment, that difference is bigger than you think. People with experience do not prepare complicated things. They choose simple things that solve multiple problems at once. A bucket is one of them. Not impressive, not eye-catching, but always there when needed. Because in the end, the issue is not what you lack, but whether you have the tools to keep everything under control. If you only had one bucket, what would you use it for first? 3. Knife veterans do not care what the knife looks like. They do not ask about the brand, and they do not ask about the price. They ask only one thing. When needed, does it work? For them, a knife is not something to collect or show off, but a tool that must get the job done in any situation. In everyday life, a knife is just a familiar item, but when things become limited, it is no longer just a tool. It becomes the ability to act. Many tasks start with a blade. Cutting rope to set up shelter, opening food, fixing broken items, even creating other tools. When you have a knife, you have options. When you do not, you are limited very quickly. Think of a very simple situation. You need to cut a piece of rope to secure a tarp, or open a food package while your hands are wet and cold. You pull out your knife, but it is dull. Or worse, it is loose, bent, or broken. At that moment, the problem is not that you do not know what to do. The problem is that you do not have a reliable tool to do it. And everything stops right there. Veterans understand this very clearly. The danger is not a lack of skill, but the lack of a tool simple enough to turn ideas into action. A good knife does not need to be expensive, but it must be solid, hold its edge, and not fail during use. It must work reliably, even when you are in a hurry, tired, or in unfavorable conditions. The most common mistake is choosing a knife based on appearance. Nice, cool, but thin and weak. Another mistake is never maintaining it. The knife rusts, becomes dull, or loosens over time, and when you need it, it is no longer a tool. A small but very important habit is to dry it after use and sharpen it regularly. Nothing complicated, just enough to keep it ready. You may have many things around you, but if you do not have a tool to cut, to fix, to create solutions, you will get stuck very quickly. A knife does not make you stronger. It helps you not get stuck. And in difficult situations, getting stuck is the most dangerous thing. 2. Tarp. If you do not have something to provide cover, your body will lose heat very quickly. Not immediately, but enough for you to start feeling cold, wet, uncomfortable, and gradually weaker. Wind, rain, humidity, things that seem small are exactly what make everything harder to control. In situations like that, the issue is not how much gear you have, but whether you can create shelter. And this is when something very simple becomes important. A tarp. Veterans do not wait until the weather turns bad to think about it. They prepare in advance because they understand the weather is not under your control. But how you deal with it is. With just a tarp and a few pieces of string, you can set up a shelter in minutes, enough to block rain, reduce wind, and retain heat much better. What is special is that it does not need to be complex. No technology, not expensive, just a tarp that costs a few dollars. But when used correctly, it completely changes the environment around you, from a cold, damp, uncomfortable place, into a space stable enough for you to rest and continue. But the mistake lies here. Many people have a tarp, but do not know how to use it. Tie it poorly, the wind blows it loose. Set the wrong angle, water pools. Place it unstably, the whole shelter collapses. The problem is not the tarp, but how you set it up. Veterans do not just carry a tarp, they know how to use it quickly and correctly. A simple tip is to always have cord ready and practice setting it up in advance, so when needed, you do not struggle. If you do not have a tarp, you can still manage, but it will take more time, more effort, and be much less effective. And in cold or damp conditions, even slowing down a little, your body already starts to pay the price. A tarp is not impressive, but it is what keeps you from being exposed to the environment. And in survival, the environment is what determines how long you last. If it started raining right now, how long would it take you to create shelter? 1. Wool socks cold does not take you down immediately, but it takes your heat, little by little. And by the time you realize it, it is too late. In many real situations, cold kills faster than hunger. Not because of lack of food, but because your body can no longer retain enough heat to function normally. What is worth noting is, the thing that makes the difference is very small: a pair of socks. Veterans never underestimate this. For them, keeping feet dry and warm is not about comfort. It is about keeping the entire body functioning steadily. Because when your feet are cold and wet, heat escapes very quickly, and you start losing control without realizing it. Think of a simple situation. You are moving in cold or damp weather. Your shoes get wet. Your socks get wet as well. At first, it is just uncomfortable. But after some time, you start to feel colder, slower, and lose strength faster. Not because you are weak, but because your body is constantly losing heat. A pair of wool socks retains heat much better than regular types, even when slightly damp. It helps maintain warmth, reduce energy loss, and keep you in a condition where you can continue moving. The cost is not high, but the value lies in helping you maintain your physical condition when the environment starts to become harsh. The most common mistake is keeping wet socks on for too long. Many people think they can just endure it for a while. But in reality, that is when the body starts losing heat the fastest. Another mistake is not carrying a spare pair, leaving you with no replacement when needed. Veterans always have at least one dry pair to change into, not because they are overly cautious, but because they clearly understand the consequences of not having it. A pair of wool socks does not make you stronger, but it keeps you from weakening. And in difficult situations, gradual weakening is the most dangerous thing. You do not need to prepare for the end of the world, but you need to be ready for situations others do not think about. And sometimes, what saves you is not the most expensive item, but the one you prepared in advance. Most people will watch this and do nothing. But experienced people do not wait until things happen to start. They prepare early, so they do not panic later. If you find this list useful, save it now. Because when you truly need it, you will not have time to look for it again. And a more important question, you have the tools. But what will you eat when everything stops? In the next video, I will share 15 of the best canned foods you should stock up on in advance, and why most people are preparing the wrong way.